The woman in row 18 shouldn't have been there. 8 months pregnant, high risk. Doctors had warned her. Stay home, rest. One wrong move and you could lose the baby. But Sarah Mitchell had made a decision. Her unborn daughter was going to hear Bob Marley sing before she was born. Because some things, Sarah believed, were more important than fear. She had no idea that within the next hour, her baby would stop moving, that blood would start flowing, that paramedics would say 3 words no mother wants to hear. We're losing her. And she had no idea that Bob Marley would do something that night that doctors still cannot explain. If you love discovering the untold stories behind music history's most incredible moments, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell, because we uncover the hidden gems that shape the legends we know today. Kingston, Jamaica, September 22nd, 1979. Sarah Mitchell sat in row 18 of the National Stadium, her hand resting protectively on her swollen belly. At 8 months pregnant, every movement was uncomfortable. Standing was hard, sitting was hard, breathing was hard. But being here at Bob Marley's concert, surrounded by 10,000 people who shared her love for his music, this felt right. Her husband David sat beside her, his hand covering hers, both of them feeling their daughter kick and turn inside Sarah's womb. They'd already named her Melody, because music had brought Sarah and David together, and music would be part of their daughter's life from her very first breath. "You sure you're okay?" David asked for the 10th time since they'd arrived. "We can still leave. Nobody will judge us." Sarah smiled and squeezed his hand. "I'm fine. She's fine. She's dancing already." As if to prove the point, a strong kick pushed against Sarah's palm. "See? She can hear the music. She's excited." David wanted to believe her, but he couldn't shake the conversation they'd had with Dr. Morrison 3 days earlier. Sarah's pregnancy had been complicated from the start. Gestational diabetes, high blood pressure, placental concerns. At their last appointment, Dr. Morrison had been clear. The next month is critical. Any stress, anything that could elevate your heart rate. Sarah had nodded politely. Then she'd bought 2 tickets to Bob Marley's concert. "This is our last chance," she'd told David. "Bob's leaving Jamaica next month for a world tour. We won't get another opportunity. And I want Melody to hear him. I want her first experience with music to be Bob Marley live." David had tried to argue, but when Sarah was determined, she was unstoppable. So here they sat, row 18, surrounded by thousands of people, waiting for Bob to take the stage. At 8 o'clock, the lights went down, the crowd erupted, and Bob Marley walked onto that stage like he owned not just the stadium, but the entire island, the entire world. He opened with Positive Vibration, and the arena transformed into pure energy. Sarah closed her eyes and swayed gently, feeling Melody move inside her. "You hear that, baby girl?" she whispered. "That's Bob Marley. That's magic." Bob performed song after song. Jamming, Exodus, Stir It Up. Each one brought waves of joy through the crowd. Sarah was completely absorbed, lost in the music, forgetting about the warnings, the risks, the fear. For the first time in months, she felt free. And then Bob began playing No Woman, No Cry. The opening chords floated through the stadium, and something shifted. The crowd, which had been wild with energy, suddenly went still. This song was different. This song was sacred. 10,000 people began singing along, their voices unified, powerful, moving. Sarah felt tears start to flow. This song always made her emotional, but tonight it hit differently. Tonight, carrying her daughter, thinking about the life they were about to begin together, the lyrics took on new meaning. Everything's gonna be all right. It was a promise, a prayer. But then, in the middle of the second verse, Sarah felt something wrong, a sharp, sudden pain in her abdomen. Not a kick, not movement, something else, something that made her gasp and grip David's arm. Sarah? David's voice was immediately concerned. What's wrong? I don't know, Sarah managed to say. Something doesn't feel right. Another wave of pain, stronger this time. Sarah doubled over as much as her pregnant belly would allow. Around them, people were still singing, still swaying, completely unaware that something terrible was happening in row 18. David was on his feet now, trying to get someone's attention. We need help. My wife, she's pregnant. Something's wrong. The woman in front of them turned around, saw Sarah's face, pale and twisted in pain, and immediately started calling for security. But Sarah barely noticed. All she could focus on was the terrible realization dawning on her. Melody had stopped moving. Sarah's hands went to her belly, pressing, trying to feel the kicks, the turns, the signs of life that had been constant for months. No, 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 Sarah whispered. Baby, please, please move, please. And then she felt it. Wetness. Warmth spreading between her legs. Sarah looked down and saw blood. Not a little. A lot. Soaking through her dress, pooling on the concrete floor beneath her seat. David, Sarah's voice was pure terror. David, I'm bleeding. The baby, something's wrong with the baby. David's face went white. He started screaming now, not caring about the concert, not caring about anything except his wife and daughter. We need paramedics. Now, someone help us. Security arrived within seconds, followed by venue medical staff. A paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes and quick hands, knelt beside Sarah. She took one look at the blood and her expression became serious, professional, controlled. How far along are you? The paramedic asked, already checking Sarah's vital signs. 8 months, Sarah gasped through the pain. The baby. She stopped moving. Is she okay? Is my baby okay? The paramedic pulled out a portable fetal Doppler, the device doctors use to check a baby's heartbeat. She pressed it against Sarah's belly, moving it around, searching. The seconds felt like hours. Sarah held her breath, praying, begging God, the universe, anyone who would listen, please let there be a heartbeat. And then they heard it. Faint, but there. Thump, 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 fast. Too fast. Stressed, but present. But she's alive, the paramedic said. But her heart rate is elevated. Combined with the bleeding, this looks like placental abruption. We need to get you to a hospital immediately. What does that mean? David demanded. What's happening? The paramedic's expression was grave. The placenta is separating from the uterus. If it fully separates, the baby will lose oxygen. We need to move fast. Around them, the concert continued. Bob was still singing No Woman, No Cry, and 10,000 people were still celebrating, completely unaware that in row 18, a mother was fighting to keep her baby alive. The paramedics started to lift Sarah onto a gurney, but moving her caused another wave of pain, and Sarah cried out, a sound of such pure anguish that several people nearby stopped singing and turned to look. On stage, Bob Marley was in the middle of the final verse. Everything's gonna be all right, he sang. But then something made him stop. Not the music. The band kept playing. But Bob's voice cut off mid-word. Bob's eyes scanned the crowd, searching. He'd felt something. A disturbance in the energy. A cry of pain that somehow reached him over the amplified music and the singing of thousands. His gaze moved across the rows until it landed on row 18, on the paramedics, On the gurney. On Sarah. Bob raised his hand, signaling the band to stop. The music fell away. The crowd went quiet, confused, wondering what was happening. "Wait," Bob said into the microphone. "Someone needs help. What's happening?" A security guard near the stage called up. "Medical emergency, Bob. Pregnant woman. They're taking her to the hospital." Bob stood there for a moment, guitar in hand, looking at Sarah being loaded onto the gurney. And then he did something that made his manager, his security team, and 10,000 concert-goers catch their breath in disbelief. Bob handed his guitar to a band member and walked off the stage. Not backstage, toward row 18. "Bob, what are you doing?" his manager called after him, but Bob ignored him. He moved through the crowd with purpose, people parting to let him through, creating a path. By the time Bob reached row 18, the paramedics had Sarah on the gurney. She was crying, one hand on her belly, the other gripping David's hand. "Please," she was saying over and over. "Please save my baby. Please." Bob knelt beside the gurney, at eye level with Sarah. "Sister," he said gently. "What's your name?" Sarah's tear-ringed eyes went wide. Bob Marley was kneeling beside her, talking to her, while she was bleeding and terrified and possibly losing her baby. "Sarah," she whispered. "Sarah, and your baby? You have a name for your baby?" "Melody," Sarah managed to say. "We're going to call her Melody." Bob smiled, a soft, sad smile. "That's beautiful. Sarah, listen to me. I want to sing to Melody right now, before they take you away. Will you let me do that?" The paramedics started to protest. "Sir, we really need to." But Bob held up his hand. 60 seconds. Please, just 60 seconds. The paramedic looked at Sarah. Sarah, despite everything, nodded. "Please," she said to the paramedic. "Let him sing to her." Bob placed his hand gently on Sarah's belly. The crowd had gone completely silent now, thousands of people watching this intimate moment, not understanding what was happening, but sensing its importance. And then Bob began to sing, not amplified, not performed, just his voice, pure and clear, singing Three Little Birds directly to Melody. "Don't worry about a thing," Bob sang, his hand warm on Sarah's belly. "'Cause every little thing gonna be all right." Sarah felt it immediately. Her racing heart began to slow. The panic that had been crushing her chest started to ease. And then, impossibly, miraculously, she felt movement. Melody. Shifting, kicking, responding to Bob's voice. "She's moving," Sarah gasped. "David, she's moving again." David, who'd been holding Sarah's other hand, felt the kick against his palm. "She is. Baby, she's okay." Bob kept singing, his voice steady, his hand never moving from Sarah's belly. Singing, "Don't worry about a thing, because every little thing gonna be all right." The paramedic was watching her monitors, and her expression changed, from urgent to confused. "Her heart rate," she said to her partner. "It's normalizing. That shouldn't... How is that happening?" Sarah closed her eyes and let Bob's voice wash over her. Every note, every word seemed to travel through her body directly to Melody. And Melody was responding, moving more now, stronger, like she was dancing to the song. When Bob finished, he leaned close to Sarah's ear and whispered something only she could hear. "Your daughter heard me. She's a fighter. Everything's gonna be all right, Sarah. I promise you." Bob stood up, looked at the paramedics, and nodded. "Take care of them." As the paramedics lifted the gurney to carry Sarah away, she reached out and grabbed Bob's hand. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with tears. Thank you for singing to her. Bob squeezed her hand. Thank Melody. She's the one who chose to stay. She's the one who chose to fight. The crowd watched in reverent silence as Sarah was carried out of the stadium. Only when the doors closed behind the ambulance did Bob return to the stage. He picked up his guitar, and when he spoke into the microphone, his voice was heavy with emotion. Mother Sarah. She brought her unborn baby here tonight because she wanted her daughter to hear music before she was born. And tonight, that baby, Melody, she was in trouble. She was scared. But music reached her. Love reached her. And she chose to live. Bob started playing Three Little Birds again, from the beginning. And this time, 10,000 people sang with an intensity that shook the stadium. Because they'd all just witnessed something they couldn't explain. Something that transcended medicine and entered the realm of miracle. At the hospital, Sarah was rushed into emergency care. Doctors examined her, ran tests, monitored Melody's heartbeat. The attending physician, Dr. Bennett, was confused by what she found. The bleeding has stopped, David told David, who was in the waiting room. Completely. And the baby's vitals are stable. Strong, actually. I don't understand. Placental abruption doesn't just stop. It gets worse. It requires immediate delivery, usually by C-section. But your wife and baby are both stable. Bob Marley sang to her, David said simply. Dr. Bennett looked at him like he was in shock. I'm sorry, what? At the concert, Bob Marley sang to my daughter, and she responded. She started moving again. My wife's condition stabilized. Dr. Bennett didn't know what to say to that. As a doctor, she dealt in facts, in science, in measurable outcomes. But what she was seeing in Sarah's charts didn't match what should have happened. Sarah remained in the hospital for 2 weeks, monitored constantly. But she never went into early labor. The bleeding didn't return. Melody continued to grow, to move, to thrive. On October 28, 1979, Sarah gave birth to a healthy baby girl. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, perfect in every way. They named her Melody Marley Mitchell. When Melody was 3 days old, Sarah wrote a letter to Bob Marley. She told him the whole story, from start to finish, where she thanked him for what he'd done. And she sent him a photograph of Melody, wrapped in a blanket, sleeping peacefully. Bob wrote back. It was a short note, but it said everything. Sarah, thank you for sharing Melody with me. She reminded me why music matters. She reminded me that we're all connected by something bigger than ourselves. Give her this message from me. Keep dancing, little Melody. The world needs your song. Sarah framed that note and hung it in Melody's nursery.